So, what I want to talk about today is what I'm calling an ideal online persona. And this is kind of like a shadow, really, of like who we are. So, when I think about like who I am, I'm kind of bifurcated. I am who I am, and then I am who I want to be. I have an aspirational person that I'm aiming to be. And so I guide my behavior and my thoughts and everything I'm doing to try and be the ideal image of myself. Now we have something similar, I think, online, and it varies by platform, but I suppose the nice thing about being online is you're once removed. So we can actually put a little bit of intention into it. We can have our ideal online persona that doesn't necessarily have to be who I am or who I want to be. It's actually who I'm intending to be online. And I think this is an important differentiation for people that are working on a personal brand. And all of us in some capacity are working on our personal brand online, how we're going to be interpreted in email, how we're going to be presenting on TikTok, how we're going to be presented when we write our blogs or do videos or whatever. It's like it's worth a moment to pause and reflect of who we want to be online. So that's kind of what an ideal online persona is the intentional dissemination of your own self online. So, why do we do it? Ultimately, we're trying to get like our ideal outcomes. So what are you trying to do? Ultimately, we're trying to be persuasive in some way. We're trying to be attractive in some way. So let's talk about podcasts for a second. You're listening to one, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you so much. But have you ever thought about being a guest on a podcast? Like, seriously, imagine sharing your story and your expertise and your business all on shows where your ideal customers are already listening. Kitcaster connects founders and entrepreneurs, professionals with podcasts that actually make sense for their brand. No pitching, no guessing. You just have great conversations on great shows. And the best part, Kitcaster handles everything. You just show up and bring your A game, Kitcaster does the rest. This is hands down one of the easiest ways to grow your personal brand and just create a wellspring of content for short video, for blog posts, for speaking engagements, for whatever. So if you've been thinking, yeah, I really need to step up my content game, go to kitcaster.com and apply today. Now back to the show. That part is a little bit harder for me, but if you can find the like-minded people and create almost like a tractor beam that brings them into you, this is going to benefit, and as a founder, as a CEO, as an investor, as a leader, that's what you want to be doing. You want to be attracting like-minded people by delivering value and hopefully being kind of welcoming and being a place that people can come to for whatever you're looking for. So I'll get into what I'm looking for. All right, here we go. So the way I like to start thinking about this is from a point of curiosity, which is how do I want the audience to feel when I'm delivering content to them? Like after they see my videos, after they read my blog posts, after they read my LinkedIn's or whatever, like how do I want them to feel? Because ultimately, like Maya Angelou said, she said, people don't remember what you said. They remember the way you made them feel. So that's probably a good destination. I know for me, I stammer and stutter and hopefully there's a little something extra that's coming through that's not necessarily represented in a transcript. If you catch one of my podcast transcription and read it verbatim, it sounds like a crazy person. You know what I mean? And so maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's real, but I think using a medium of podcasting, pardon me, using a medium of video, we get to have certain liberties and the audience gives us certain liberties and, allows us to make mistakes. And I think that's a beautiful thing about podcasting in general is there is a patina of charming amateurism that kind of resonates through. And ultimately it's familiar because that's how we talk to each other. So I'll talk a little bit about how I want to be perceived. What's my ideal online persona? I want people to feel informed. I want people to feel entertained, and I want people to feel smart. And there's different kind of levers you can pull I think, to like accomplish this. So, some of those attributes that I'm trying to kind of embody would be kind of wholesome and sincere. Which again, we're talking about an ideal online persona. Offline, I'm probably totally full of shit and vulgar, you know, and sarcastic. But online, it doesn't translate well, Sarcasm especially in copy and text, it just doesn't work. So I think being wholesome and sincere also like kind of tips its hat to per a portion of my personality who really actually does wanna help. I do wanna be of service. So, I can't use sarcasm and snark and things like that because it just feels mean. Um, so I also wanna have kind of a fun and light of spirit. I think that's a big part of anything I get involved in, is it has to be fun, and I wanna be translating that I'm having a good time because legitimately, I usually am. And also, if we're sending out a tractor beam, I wanna attract people that have kind of a light of spirit as well. I also wanna project successful, wealthy, and prosperous. And largely, I think that's because in the West, we bow at the altar of money. And almost more than anything else, what gives credibility is wealth and affluence. So I want that to be a part of the persona I'm projecting. I'm very fortunate that I am successful. I'm not Bruce Wayne level successful by any means, but if I could bring a little Bruce Wayne energy, you know what I mean? Not necessarily Batman, but Bruce Wayne energy, I would love that. Actually been kind of like contemplating if I could like put together like a look. One thing I like to do is refresh my look every spring and fall, and I'm very unsuccessful with it. Like it always ends up being kind of ruinous and terrible. It's not good, but I have an inspiration. It is Colorado Bruce Wayne. So it
That
would
sounds
be like kind of
interesting.
yeah. So check it out. Here, let me give you the full look. Okay. So black collared shirt, maybe like a little, like a demure bolo tie, silver, maybe a little flash of turquoise, a black duster jacket, wool duster jacket, high collar up, Pendleton. So it's all black, goes down to the knees, but it's got those Pendleton triangles on the back. You know what I mean? Kind of a slim
Very
fitting pant.
dramatic. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
totally.
dramatic.
Like, it would be like some kind of North American indigenous vampire look, kinda,
Yeah,
you know?
sounds like.
I don't know how that would translate online, but offline, I think it would look pretty sick. So we'll see if we can get there. So that's it, successful, wealthy, prosperous. People are online, particularly in the business community, whether you're selling a product or you're advertising a service, but they wanna trust people that, um, are are proven and true. And so that's part of the projection that I wanna do. So there's a couple of ways to do it. Now, left to my own devices, I'm gonna start turning into Bruce Wayne of Colorado. It's probably a bad idea. So what I like to do instead is to use models and archetypes. So models are like people that I really admire. In this case, like I'm putting out content, I want to do that. So I want to find people that are doing that consistently across the board well and study them. So that's really helpful because what you do in that pursuit is you see when they make mistakes. You see what they do well. You see how they're doing it, where they're doing it, and it's just really helpful. So to have kind of like a handful of folks you're following online that you're kind of modeling yourself after. And then the other one is to kind of use archetypes. This is probably the easiest way to do it is to just like basically you want to skin someone's perception of you before you even see them. So you can do this, if for a while I was going for the classic American dude. So it's like the white t-shirt, blue jeans, Converse, Fonzie, leather jacket. It's a great look. You can't miss with that look. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
what
it's
happens is
familiar.
when you wear that, what's that?
It's very familiar. Like you see that look and
Yes,
I like in 1 second you recognize it.
totally. And what's great about that is you create a familiarization where they're like, you are just like my brother, or you look just like my uncle. You're like, really? How could that be? Because we all wear the same costume. So you get to kind of use these costumes, you use these archetypes to hopefully kind of like ensconce yourself with an emotional experience, hopefully positive, that people can pull away from. So, I feel like you're just one step ahead if somebody's like reading something from you and they're like, wow, this reminds me of my dad, or this reminds me of my son, or my husband, or my cousin, or my buddy, or whatever. Like you have kind of that familiarity. Like you said, you're already one step ahead. So, so yeah, archetypes and models. Now, here's where people get tripped up. And, we work with clients all the time. Largely, we're working with a lot of, I would say, technical founders. And these are people that are more comfortable with glowing rectangles than they are with one-on-one communication. And the thing about one-on-one communication is it's a little clumsy. So, creating content is a little bit clumsy. Figuring out an ideal online personality is a little clumsy, which means you have to iterate. You have to put it out there. I think communication is something that like only gets better with reps. So you got to be committed to doing it. Now, where people fall off a lot of times and they quit is they'll kind of spray everywhere and they'll try and be everywhere and it becomes overwhelming. Like, how am I going to post on X and then I got to write a white paper and then I'm supposed to do a video? It's like, it's way too much, So when people are getting started, and we're working with folks, it's like commit to, one platform with one audience in mind for 1 year and start there, like a good base level to kind of get your bearings. After 1 year, you'll start to develop kind of your beats. You'll have your jokes, you'll have your punchlines, you'll start to see what's resonating from that one platform. And from there, you can kind of go on. Now, I'm an advocate, of course, for podcasting as a ways and means to do it because it's a lot easier just hitting record and talking than it is trying to write something witty without sarcasm or snark that's wholesome and fun and all these things. It's almost impossible to do that because you can't really inject your personality quite the same way you can with audio. And even in this case, in video. So those are kind of the common pitfalls, going out too hard and relying on your enthusiasm to carry you when it gets cripplingly hard. When you put out your podcast and 12 people listen to it and 9 of them are like, dude, it's terrible. You're like, oh, man, this is awful. What do I do from here? So, with kind of like that iteration and consistency, you should be able to find some success. So really, that's it. That's the framework. If I'm to summarize, your ideal online persona is something worthy of pursuing because it affects your bottom line. And as a founder, CEO, our personal brand oftentimes is a revenue generator for us. As a second part, ask yourself, how do you want the audience to feel? And then what are the attributes you can promote with your online persona that will generate those feelings? And then, of course, you can use archetypes and models to make sure you're on the right track. And then just make a commitment to one platform for one specific audience for a year. And let's see what happens. Okay, let me ask you something. Do you have a B2B or tech brand that want to get your message out to the right people? Like the people that actually care about your product and offering and are willing to make a purchase? Well, let me put you on to Wildcast. Wildcast is a secret weapon for brands that want to advertise on podcasts. And not just any podcast, we're talking about the shows that your audience is actually listening to, that your customers are actually listening to, that your prospects are actually listening to. These are host-read ads that move the needle in your business. It's personal, it's targeted, and honestly, it's one of the best ways to create real connections with your audience. And the best part, Wildcast takes care of it all. They match you with the perfect shows, they manage all of the content, they report, and they manage all of the payment distribution. So all you have to do is sit back and watch the magic happen. If that sounds like something you need, head over to gowildcast.com and apply today. Start turning listeners into loyal customers. Seriously, you'll thank me. Go to gowildcast.com. That is gowildcast.com. Back to the show.